Welcome, guys, to another episode of Nurses Outside the Box. We're episode 25 already. And today we have a very special guest. Dr. Alisha Cornell is here. Welcome, Dr. Alisha. It's so awesome to have you here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your invitation.
You're so welcome. I'm going to have you introduce yourself because you have a list that is phenomenal about everything you've done in your life. So you're such a nurse outside the box. And so in the next 15, 20 minutes, I would love to, we're going to highlight, right, what you're doing and what message you have for nurses, particular in innovation and entrepreneurship and everything else. So tell us a little bit more about, I would love to start the question like I always start is, what makes you, Alisha, a nurse outside the box?
For me, I am a nurse outside the box because I have usually always operated outside of the box, whether I knew it or not. And I am not a rule breaker. I just look for the rules that don't exist. And so if there is something that is not present, I have learned how to create a path to yes. And so what that typically means is that if I'm interested in developing a project or participating, instead of accepting a no for it, I always look for no to me means another opportunity. And so I always look for what is a different path that I can still be able to be successful, do what I need to have done, and still be able to operate professionally, if that makes sense. So when I say not a rule breaker, I still want to maintain, it's very important to me to maintain professional ethics and to be, a good example at all times, but I'm also very intentional and deliberate in doing things that I feel passionate about and I feel connected to a purpose. And so really thinking outside of my horizon or those boundaries into saying, how can I respect myself first, but then also I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to achieve that, and not really, it's not that I don't care. I am not fearless. It's very courageous to do it, but I also I try to do things to make sure that when I'm uncomfortable and I step outside of those boundaries in that box, that I'm prepared for what happens next.
Wow. Okay. We could take 10 things already out of that little thing that you said right now. I want to first kind of, before we go into any of that, I would love for you to tell us your story because you have had a very courageous life, even as a nurse, right? So what do you think in your life has brought you to where you are right now? And what kind of courageous decision did you make in that journey? Can you tell us a little more about that?
I would say that I grew up in a way that I don't want to use the word allowed. I just never understood. I never was taught about what you can't do. I was introduced to the love of books, of going to the library, and hard work at a very, very, very early age. And it's not that I wasn't treated like a child. There was an expectation that in the families, both family sides that I grew up with, is that you operate as a family member. And when you're operating as a family member, you are hardworking, you are not complaining, you are eating what we eat, you are doing what we do. Even if you're 5 years old, you're doing these things. And so it was always it's hard to describe, but it was always something where I felt like you just do these things because I don't know any other way to not do that. And so when you say like a courageous decision, I think all of the time was a courageous decision. Anything that I chose to do, I remember riding my bike to a bookmobile when I was 10 years old. You had to cross the highway. I'm 10 years old. You ride down because I loved the books so much that I just wanted to be able to have those things to read. And it
Right.
really just opened my imagination. It opened my creativity. My grandmother gave me a Commodore 64. If anybody can relate to what that is, it is like a very early generation computer. You
Right.
hooked it up to the television monitor, but it came with a programming book.
Okay.
And she told
Wow.
me, you're smart and you can use this. And
Nice.
when we moved from one town to the other, that was her gift to me. And that summer, I didn't really have a lot of friends. I spent time looking through that programming book, and I would do the programs. Well, the programs were games, and so, or you could draw. And so once you program the computer to do that, then I could play those games and draw. And I really didn't understand the significance or impact until now of giving someone that you don't know what you're doing. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's always like I've always felt like when I found something that was challenging, I really enjoy being challenged. I
Hmm.
really enjoy competition, healthy competition, and I really enjoy being a part of a team. I like to see that happen. And so making these decisions, having the courage to say, I don't want to study biology anymore, I want to study nursing, and having different reactions and responses, and all of it really just led me to this point now of being here in the present.
So I'm curious because your nursing career is also a little bit unique, right? So tell us a
Yes.
little bit more about your nursing career and what kind of steps you took to get there. Because in terms of your informatics and everything else, it's very different than most
It's
nurses, right?
it's very different. And I will tell you, it really just started off with um, what is this opportunity that I have? And so it started off with actually it started off with me wanting to leave the town I was in, and there was an opening position at a hospital, a trauma hospital, for the operating room residency program. And I just knew that I wanted to be in that program. And I went
Mm.
and you interviewed 3 different departments, and I got into residency programs for the operating room for 2 different hospitals, and I chose the one I wanted to be in. And ironically, I passed out on the very first day in the OR because of the smell. And so I couldn't take it. It was a horrendous smell. And so I had got accepted another job offer for the same hospital in a different department for orthopedics and trauma. And that was
Right.
really a trial by fire. It was one of the most difficult nursing jobs that I can think of. It's med
Mm.
surge, it's high pace, it is trauma, it is ED, it is everything. And
Yeah.
these patients were off the chain. And every opportunity, I was at a teaching hospital, every opportunity that I had to learn with the surgeon, every opportunity I had to learn with a nurse researcher, quality improvement, I joined the falls committee, everything that I thought was something fun to do. I never thought about it as far as as enhancing my career. I never thought about that. I thought I was bored, Anne Marie, and I wanted
Mm.
to find things to do. And so
Yeah.
I just did all those things. And so for some of my managers and other leaders, what are you doing? Where are you
Right.
going? I don't know. If there's an opening, and the other part of it was you'd be a charge nurse, you get an extra dollar an hour. That's, pretty impressive. So you did that. I worked night shift. On
Mm.
night shift, I learned from seasoned, mature nurses who told me everything about how nursing was, and sitting around them and listening to those stories and really thinking about, again, not my career, but just what else can I learn? It was always about learning. It's always been about learning anything I had. The informatics came from getting a job and applying for a job, and they said, do you have informatics experience? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. What is that? And then they talked about it, and I said, yes, I worked with an electronic health record before. At that time I was kind of not fake it till you make it, but you push yourself to get this because this is the job you want. And I'll learn more about it when I get there. And it really turned into, you've already learned about that. So how do you apply this? And working with the electronic health record and looking at gaps in clinical practice really just heightened. And I had, along the way, one of the things I had was really great nurse mentors who were accepting of my wild child style, who were willing to acknowledge that I was very different. I learned very, very fast. I've always learned extremely fast. And when I get bored, I create chaos. It could either be negative or positive. And so I started to learn how to create positive chaos. And I would just create these things. And I would take and look at these reports and just say, like, okay, it's a puzzle. How do I put this together? I'm going to present this to these people, and look what's happening. This is, so it was really probably just an innate researcher, scientist that's always been in me. I just do things that seem interesting. I just want to learn.
So at one point, did you then decide to go for your DNP and your doctorate? I'm curious in all of that.
It was really a push from my husband after I finished my master's, and he's always been a big proponent of education, and he was like, you have to do this, you have to, get your doctorate, you have to achieve this, because this is going to finalize, and you'll have all these doors open for you. And I've seen other people do it, and I did see that they were writers, researchers, educators, leaders, and they had like 5, 6, 7 different things going at once that were all working in their favor. And so I really fought it until the day I was sitting in the orientation. And then the second day of orientation, I was like, okay, yes, I'm going to do this. And the class we had, again, total opportunity, brand new class, DNP, their first year at the university, that they had this new DNP program. CNOs from all over the region where I'm from were there. They talked about so many different things. I met so many amazing people through the program, and really didn't really know what all of it was going to really equal up to. And, so my resume reads everything because I just like a lot of different things, do a lot of different things. But really now it's really focusing. Now I see that all of those things led up to excellence in clinical practice. And at the heart of it all was always wanting to learn and be a better practicing nurse at the bedside, and to be more knowledgeable, and not to create research, but to contribute to nursing science overall, and really be innovative and really proud. To be honest, to be a nurse, a proud moment was walking across that stage and realizing that throughout all of my life's obstacles and things, that I had so many people that were encouraging of me to just be educated. It's never, it was always just to be educated, because with education and with that knowledge, you'll be able to go anywhere. Reading Rainbow, LeVar Burton, big inspiration of, just sitting down and where can you take your mind, and how much you can really grow by being educated. And it is a real blessing, and it is definitely something that I really appreciate having done. And it has been hard, and I'll tell anybody, you're going to face a lot of challenges, and you're going to face a lot of no's, and it is more about that internal push that you have for yourself. I've cried. I never quit because I was never taught to quit. I don't know what it means to quit. I will go out fighting before I quit. And so it's just that's my own personality that a lot of people see. And
I love your fire. I love your fire.
Yeah,
So what do you It's like, okay, it's all there. What are you doing currently? And then I also would love to talk a little more about COVID, but what are you doing currently?
Currently, right now, I am a clinical implementation consultant at Relias. So we have healthcare technology products. They are quality improvement tools, and they help enhance the quality of care, reduce variation in care for providers and nurses and allied health members. Also, we do a lot in compliance learning and patient safety, behavioral health, all verticals, acute care, post-acute care. And right now, what I do is I take all my knowledge and experience, and I really coach our clients into developing strong projects, using the tool for quality improvement, and thinking about nursing theory. Benner is one of my favorite theorists right now, of novice to expert. What does that mean? Objective decision making using data, and really looking at how that supporting developing these nurses has a direct impact on patient care and patient safety.
Beautiful. Wow. That's an amazing job of everything you've done together. I think that's
Yes.
amazing. I would love to address a little bit about COVID, because we're still in the midst of COVID-19, right? Started a couple of months ago. We're in 2020, which has been the craziest year ever. What do you see in terms of COVID-19, and what kind of tips do you have for nurses who are dealing with all the stress and everything that's going on?
What I see for COVID-19 is that these patients are going to have long-term impacts, mentally and physically. And I think that what we are seeing is this first wave of people who are, positive, and they have been admitted to the hospitals with the diagnosis and having to provide that acute care. What I see for the long term is that we don't know what's going to happen for the system, for the body system, and we don't know what type of long-term impact that is. This will be a lasting thing for this pandemic. For nurses that are really burned out, I would ask the first question, and I've had several people contact me. The first question I would always ask is, are you ready to step away? When you say it out loud, you're seeking permission, and I would say that is a yes. And before you step away, sit down, discuss it, and have a plan as to what you're going to do. But also be aware that the intensity of stepping away is traumatic. And that there is a healing process, and embracing that a role that is outside of direct patient care will be overwhelming initially. And there are 8 stages of grief and loss for a reason. And you must go through that. Even with removing yourself from the environment, you will miss patient care, you will miss nursing environment, and be ready for that. And if you're ready for that and ready for that challenge, there's a whole world out here of different areas for nurses to go in as a professional and really have your professional expertise.
Yes, and there's so many other opportunities too, absolutely. But I love the fact that, yes, it takes time, it takes grief, it's a transition, absolutely.
Yes.
What do you see for nursing in general? And I don't know, I would love for you to talk about that. And the other thing I was really curious, because there's a lot going on in 2020 about women of color as well, right? I don't know if you want to speak to that, about nurses of color or women of color. What do you see in the future happening? What needs to be done there?
Well, what I really see is there there's a great divide right now. There's a great divide right now. Is that okay?
Yeah. That's good.
I think there is a great divide. And by division, I mean, I recently wrote an article in Minority Nurse about the same topic, about being creative and being innovative. I think that we have a systemic and a systematic issue for this topic, meaning that it's both on patient care and then on the people who are providing the care. I feel like right now there is a call to action. And a lot of times what I see is that in response, it is in leadership. But I really feel like as a Black woman, as a nurse, it is time for us to reach out into our own communities um, to pursue this type of degree and to show examples of positive leaders that are already within nursing. It is time for us to pursue higher levels of education. The master's is fine, but really getting the doctorate and really putting ourselves, right? So you can rely on other people to do things for you. But then there's also this accountability that you have for yourself to say, if the position is available and they want a qualified person, then I have to meet those qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
And really positioning yourself to be able to do that and take a platform or stand on what is your purpose. I see a little bit of a derailment, and not just in my own community, but in nursing overall, when we have influencers or some nurses that have changed their perspective of what nursing is, and we are moving away in some sort, and COVID has really brought this back to being a focus of being educated, being knowledgeable to take care of patients. If there is an inequality in healthcare in a certain community, Black community, then there needs to be more Black clinicians, more Black doctors, more Black nurses, more Black respiratory therapists, so that we can collectively be able to talk and to do that. And then again, it is outside of healthcare. What are you actually doing for your own community on your own, individually, independently? For that purpose. And there's a lot of people now who are volunteering their time, who are doing different things. And, I do things like I speak about it for any podcasts or webinars and things to really think about, where we are, and that we see this whole shift in this country right now. And what does that mean? Because it can be a lot of positive changes that are made, but you also have to be willing to come to the table with ideas for change that are impactful, and also be ready to work, because it takes a lot of work. And these aren't things that just formulate overnight. They take a long time, but you've got to be a willing participant to say, I want my voice to be heard. I want to be in a position where, if you're in a hospital, that I hire. So that does mean more nurse managers and things like that. But why are you hiring that? And what are you going to do when you hire these people? And how do you professionally develop these nurses into wanting more? I've had a myriad of mentors and people that I paid a lot of attention to. And outside of just Black women leaders in nursing, I've had other minority leaders and as providers and physicians who have really been encouraging to join, either as a partnership and a research project, but just to do things to say, this is what we're doing, to bring this, to bring this out and to bring this up and to make this a topic, and not just trending, but to really give some real thought to it. And how do you do that? I chose to work for the company I chose to work for now because the data and the technology is objective. And so it is testing someone's knowledge on clinical practice, and then building either leaders from that. And it's not a subjective, it's not how I feel, but implicit bias is it's a real thing, and it has to be discussed. And self-care does also, because you have to love yourself. And these are very hard, very, very, very difficult conversations to have, but acknowledging that if you and I are going to make a change, then you and I got to work together. And so that means I got to be okay with me, you got to be okay with you, so then we can have a positive collaboration and do some things to really make something impactful happen out here in this world. And so that's what I think.
Yeah, I love all you're saying, and I really thought about there's really two ways of looking at 2020, even, right? We can talk about this big disaster year, right, that's been happening, or we can really look at it as a place of opportunity where huge shifts are happening, right? Both in the year of the nurse is now also And then you're a nurse and midwife now also has this whole COVID thing going on. It has the Black Lives Matter, and there's all these shifts that are so pertinent for nurses, right? And so important for nurses. So I love what you're saying. I'm curious. Well, first of all, I want to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you. If they're hearing this interview and they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for a nurse who's curious about what you're doing, who wants to get in touch
The
with
best way probably would be to link in with me on my network on LinkedIn. It is, I'm Dr. Alisha Cornell on LinkedIn, and that's where all my contact info is, or you can send me a direct message and we can, set up, additional time to talk, or I like to email or text, but that is probably the best way to contact me.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that's how we got in touch too. So I love that.
Yes.
I mean, we could talk for hours, and we already talked quite a long time because I love your energy. You have made a big difference, and that eagerness to learn and that eagerness to change things. I mean, I think you're so in the midst of that still, and so are we as nurses. So I kind of want to maybe at the end of this conversation, anything you still want to say, and particularly anything you want to say to nurses right now who are on that brink of wanting to change, you want to be outside the box, you want to do something remarkable, right? What is a tip that you want to give to nurses in general? What is there anything else you want to add?
I would say first, I would say love yourself. Really take time out to think about how you're looking at life. And, I try to live my life in positivity, and all of the things that have either happened to you or are happening, if you're thinking about it from a negative lens, really focus in on everything else that you're missing out of that could be a positive as to why this is happening. If you're ready for a change, it has to start with, it really does start with yourself, but also really appreciating. And I tell people I started off with a thank you list every day of everything that I was thankful for, and appreciating before you leave nursing, before you want to tap into something else, start writing and thinking about all of the reasons why you became a nurse. I had to go back to that initial reason why I even wanted to be a nurse, because I've forgotten it along the way of learning and meeting different people, and being influenced by different perspectives. Go back to why you even wanted to become a nurse and think about that time in your life, and really just start there and think about what made you even make that decision to join this type of fraternity of people. And really think about that, and you will find out that why you started is not why you're here now. But when you go backwards to think about why you really started, there's a deeper meaning and a deeper purpose for you as a nurse. Now that purpose could have changed, but when you go back and you revisit it, you begin to see how you evolve, and you can begin to be thankful for all the success that you had, and thinking about how are you going to move forward. It's hard to relax right now, but I would encourage everyone to try to find peace in nature, or peace in either meditating or just being quiet and being still and being able to just listen to yourself. And before you make a big decision about anything, just be honest. If you need help, ask for it. It's okay. It really is. It's very much okay. If you need time off, ask for it, because that's okay also. And that you're a human being, you're not a robot, and you are a nurse second. You are born first. That's who you are. And be thankful for that. And then you're a nurse. And going back and thinking about those things, because we forget that we are humans. And it's okay to feel burned out. It's okay to feel tired. And it is okay to want to rest. And I think that's where people are at now. They want permission. And if you want permission, you can contact me on LinkedIn, and I will tell you to go lay down. I would give you a prescription for resting, enjoying time with your family, go cook, go walk, go do whatever it is that just makes you feel okay with being who you are first. And that everybody wants to change the world, but, the world's going to change on its own too. And you can always play a part by just being a better you.
Totally. Beautiful. Alisha, thank you so much. This was a phenomenal interview. Guys, if you've enjoyed this, please like it, share it, send this to another nurse, because we need more nurses to hear this message, right? Both the message of moving and changing nursing, and then also just relaxing and being who we are, because I think you're right. That's one of the most important things. Thank you so much. This is beautiful.
Thank you.
And for everybody else, I hope to see you now. The next Nurse Outside the Box will interview another phenomenal nurse. Do something with this. Do something with these interviews. Share them. Take something away. Take a rest, like Alisha said, because that's so important. Thanks, guys.